Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sunit Sachdev. We are talking about frankincense today. I have a passion for essential oils. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll notice that I've been talking a lot about essential oils lately. And frankincense is actually one of the oils that kind of introduced me to the world of essential oils and is the reason I am so passionate about oils. So I just wanted to share with you guys today, because I talk about oils, and especially on Instagram, I find a lot of people will message me and ask me to share kind of like how I incorporate these oils into my life and how to use them. And I know so many of you out there have probably bought essential oils, and maybe you bought a kit or maybe you bought a few and they just sit on your shelf because you have no idea how to use them. So I just wanted to share some of this information with you so that maybe you'll be inspired to kind of start using some of this stuff again, because there's nothing worse than making a purchase that you never use, right? So pardon the hair, just got some crazy stuff going on today with the hair. But first of all, how awesome is this shirt? So I went to this fabulous, hi Tanya, I went to this fabulous gala last night, you guys. It was the Dare to Dream soiree here in Vancouver. My girlfriend Janika Whitney put it on, and it was so awesome. It was just all good juju, and like I had my reading from my spirit guides, and my girlfriend got a henna tattoo, and we got vitamin B12 injections, and it was just like such a great vibe there, and we had so much fun, and we ended up buying these shirts. Kindness is a language, and these shirts are by, who are these shirts by? I want to give a shout out to the person who designs them. Free Reign, so hashtag Free Reign. I'm just going to fix this back here. So that was awesome. And I also just wrapped up a whole bunch of podcast interviews for 2018, which are going to be amazing. If you guys follow me, you know that I'm all about inspiring new and expecting moms, but we are changing the focus a little bit as we move into 2018. And it's going to be a lot more around the mindset stuff, around just being a mom and a younger mom. So stay tuned for that. These episodes are going to be fab. And I can say that with confidence because I know what they're going to sound like, because I just finished recording like 15 of them. So frankincense, let's talk frankincense. Frankincense. Okay, so I'll tell you my personal story with frankincense and why I love this oil, and why this is the oil that ended up getting me really into essential oils. For those of you who follow me, you know my dad passed away about a year and a half ago, a little over a year ago. When my dad was first diagnosed with his brain cancer, I really didn't know anything about this brain cancer. I'd never heard of it before. I knew nothing about it. We were just told that it's terminal and that he would probably die within about a year. And at the time, I worked in the medical pharmaceutical industry. I was in sales, and a big part of my job was knowing the research, understanding the drugs that I sold, and sharing that information with doctors. And so I was kind of very immersed in that world, and science and research just came naturally to me. So when my dad was diagnosed, you better believe I jumped into research mode. Like I took my kids to Edmonton where my parents lived. We spent 2 months there. Every night after I put my kids to bed, I spend the day, I would take my dad to his treatments. And every night after I put my kids to bed, it was late nights on the computer, looking at research papers, learning more about glioblastoma, which was the cancer that he had, and watching documentaries and reading studies. And over and over and over, I heard about frankincense. And I had actually just heard about it in passing before. I really didn't know anything about it. The only essential oil I ever had any experience with was actually oil of oregano, which I had heard somewhere that it's, antifungal and antibacterial. And people said, hey, I take oil of oregano in the cold and flu season and it keeps me healthy. So I started using oil of oregano, and I actually found that it magically might be working because I was not getting that sick anymore. And so I kind of had this little background with essential oils with oil of oregano, but really it was completely clueless when it came to the essential oil world. So I heard about frankincense, and frankincense comes from the Boswellia genus of trees. I think it's a Boswellia or Boswellia. And so it's like the resin from the sap of these trees. And what I was reading was that there was a lot of studies looking at the active components of frankincense in inflammation, and then also in something called cytokines. I'll try not to get too scientific on you guys. I nerd out when it comes to this stuff, but I'm going to try to keep it super basic. Basically, all you need to know is cytokines are they're disruptors within your cells. So they can cause tumors, they can cause cancer, and they can cause all sorts of problems. So what they were looking at was the ability of some of the active components of frankincense to disrupt the way that cytokines work, or to mitigate their effects so that the cytokines aren't able to do what they're typically doing, to cause cancer or to help tumors grow and inflammation. So apparently it's an anti-inflammatory, and this helps with inflammation in the body. And then the other thing that I was reading was that it crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it actually can go into the brain and kind of do its work. So I saw this over and over, and at the time, I don't think I was in denial of the fact that my dad was most likely going to die, but I do think that I just really I never wanted to lose my dad and think we didn't do anything else. I always wanted to just try everything I could get my hands on. But I'm also not quick to purchase from snake oil salesmen, so to speak, right? I'm not going to just read one thing and be like, let's try this. We tried a lot of things, but they were after a lot of reading and a lot of research and a lot of talking to people. So frankincense came up over and over. We started giving frankincense to my dad. So my dad took frankincense in all the ways that you can take frankincense. If you have a good quality essential oil, there are a few companies that make oils that are pure and not synthetic. When you have a good quality essential oil, there are several oils that you can actually ingest, breathe in, and put on topically. And frankincense was one of those oils. So I got him some frankincense. We used it topically on his head. We would mix a couple of drops in some coconut oil a couple times a day. We would rub it on the area of where his tumor was. He also took a drop on his thumb, and we put it to the roof of his mouth so that it was being pulled up, right? Every day he did that. I think it was 3 times a day. And then we would also put it into a diffuser where he was sleeping. I went a little bit above and beyond that. I have a girlfriend who's a naturopathic doctor. I talked to her about this. Boswellic acid, which is kind of like one of these active components of frankincense, you can actually buy it as a pill. So we actually also gave that to my dad. So when it comes to a frankincense perspective, he was getting hit like all angles, right? And there was a lot of other things we did too. But it was like, hey, can't do any harm, so let's just do this. And my dad underwent 6 weeks of radiation to his brain every single day, at the same time as chemotherapy. And he would have these weekly checkups where we would go, and he would get checked by his, radiation oncologist, and they would just check to see how he's doing and check his, his memory and ask him a bunch of questions. And they're checking his motor skills and all this other stuff. And every time we went, the doctor would kind of look at his chart, and he was looking to see what dose of steroids my dad was on. Every week this happened. Every week he would check to see what dose of steroids my dad was on, because when you get that much radiation to your brain every single day, like the amount of radiation my dad got to his brain was the maximum amount you can get in a lifetime. That's 6 weeks. There's a lot of swelling that goes on, right? Radiation causes all sorts of problems. So there's going to be a lot of inflammation. And so they will either prophylactically put you on steroids because they're expecting the inflammation, and inflammation in the brain when you already have a tumor, not good, right? You want to get that under control. So they either put you on it prophylactically, which means to prevent inflammation, or as soon as they see the first signs of it, they will get you on steroids and anti-inflammatory drugs. And every time he would look to see what the dose of the steroid was, and every time he'd have to say, "Aren't you on steroids?" And my dad would say, "No." And after a few weeks, hi Jasmine, you use frankincense for everything. Well, that's why I'm talking about it, because it's so amazing. So after a few weeks, the radiation oncologist was like, "What are you guys doing?" And he told us that he's never had a patient ever And this is all this guy does, okay? He only deals with brain cancer patients, and it's his job to give them radiation every day for 6 weeks. That's their protocol. He's never had a brain cancer patient who had come this far into treatment, so we were several weeks in by this point, and has not needed steroids yet. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? So I realize that this is just one person we're talking about. This is not some big, huge study with thousands and thousands of patients. This is just my experience with my dad. And we were doing other things as well. So, of course, I'm very aware of the fact that this could be a coincidence. This could be nothing. But I know that the doctor was very shocked and surprised to hear about this, that my dad was not on steroids. And this went on for a long time. Not only inflammation, right, but just the whole interrupting of the cytokines. We were hopeful. I mean, you're always hoping, even though you're realistic, you're always hoping that maybe this will actually help with his cancer. So we had hope. In the end, my dad did end up passing away, but the fact that my dad didn't have that inflammation, and the fact that he was not put on steroids until much later, just got my brain going. Like, I was like, I think this frankincense really works. And when you've read everything that I had read about frankincense, like, it was, it's on PubMed, guys. Like, if you want to go into PubMed, there's a ton of research on looking at some of the active components of frankincense. When you see the studies and you're reading the research and you're seeing that, yeah, people are studying this because there's something here, you start to think, well, maybe this is what helped my dad. Like, he was taking it internally, and we were diffusing it for him. And so he didn't have that inflammation. So maybe this really worked. So this was my kind of big introduction into the essential oil world, was frankincense, because of how I feel that it helped my dad. After my dad passed away, we came back home, and I just got right into it. Like, I needed to know more about this. And the more I learned, the more I realized why it's called the King of Oils. So if you guys haven't heard that before, it's called the King of Oils. There's a whole biblical story behind it too, about how frankincense and myrrh used to be brought to Jesus as gifts and all this stuff. And I'm not really super religious. Well, I'm not Christian, so I don't want to butcher this story and embarrass myself, so I won't really get into the details. But the more I learned about frankincense and about all of its properties, I understood why it's called the King of Oils. So not only has it been studied for its anti-inflammatory and anti-tumor capabilities, but it's also an antiseptic. So it helps to prevent further injury. So when you have injury somewhere, like for instance, you burn your hand or you have a cut, it basically helps as an antiseptic to prevent further injury, prevent infection, and help to heal the skin because it's got these antiseptic properties, and it encourages wound healing. Okay, so this was kind of another one of those things. And the deeper I dug with that, then I learned its benefits on the skin. So it's also got these, what do they call, skin regenerating properties. So when you think about things like acne, scarring, wrinkles, even sunspots, that type of thing, there is some research to show that it is actually helping to regenerate your skin cells so that scars can heal faster, collagen can build faster. So it has a smoothing effect and a plumping effect on your skin. So I was sold, because if you guys don't know this about me, I'm absolutely obsessed with skincare, especially the older I get, the more obsessed I am with it. And so this was another thing that I was just like, wow, frankincense is magical. So, I have this personal experience with my dad, and now I'm learning more about it and just hearing about all these amazing things. So then I learned about its immune boosting properties. So I guess it would make sense that if it's got anti-tumor properties, it would also be an immune booster, right? So it bumps up your immune system because it's preventing cytokines, which can kind of disrupt how your cells communicate. It's interrupting their effect on your body. So it would make sense that if that's happening, then your immune system's being boosted. So I was just starting to have all these aha moments with this. And from, oh, by the way, from also just an emotional and psychological perspective, there's also some research now looking at the fact that frankincense can be calming. It can be great for anxiety. So, if you can use it in a blend, like an anti-anxiety or a calming blend. They're looking at its effect on your limbic system and all the kind of emotional processing centers of the body, which is also connected to the next thing I found out about it, which is hormone regulating. So there's a great study on PubMed looking at, they basically had women who were in menopause or entering menopause, breathing in frankincense. So it was being diffused. And I don't know the exact details of, how many times a day or, what the amount was, but they were looking at the correlation between the frankincense and the amount of estrogen that they were finding in the saliva of these women. And it actually has a hormone balancing effect and has shown benefit in women who are going into menopause, and also not just going into menopause, but if you think about hormone balancing, now we're getting into all sorts of great things, like talking about your cycle and talking about PMS and talking about all the things in your body that are related to your hormones, which is a lot, right? Like you think about your skin, you think about your mood. So if you've got something that's helping to balance out your hormones, there's a whole other host of symptoms that's going to be helping, which also again ties back to like what I was just talking about, like with the mood. So not only does this affect mood in and of itself, but it helps balance your hormones, which can also affect your mood. So if you're somebody who's prone to getting anxiety, or certain times of the month you find that your mood is not regulated, inhaling some of this stuff might just do the trick for you, right? So these are all of the little things. I didn't want to get into a super long scientific discussion today. I just wanted to hit on some quick bullet points of what I have found, and why I got into essential oils so deeply was because I had a good first experience with frankincense, and then the more I dug, the more I learned, and the more I learned why it's called the king of oils and all the amazing properties that it possesses. So if you are at all into essential oils and you have frankincense and you've just never known how to use it, now you know that, if you have a good quality oil, it can be ingested, it can be diffused, it can be applied topically. It's great for all sorts of things, which is another thing I love about essential oils, guys, is that many essential oils out there do have multiple uses. So it's not like, when you buy a product and it's like, it's just for your eyes, or you buy something and it's only for one thing in your home. Like the great thing about oils is many of them can be used in all sorts of different ways. So if you've got a bottle of essential oils, if you've got a bottle of frankincense, these are all the different things you can be thinking about now to combine it with other things, and kind of customize skincare products, or like, making like a little boo-boo spray for your kids and throwing a drop of frankincense in there because it's going to help wounds heal faster. It's so good for inflammation. So anyone who's got arthritis, joint pain, headaches, this is a very kind of basic, like, I'm just going to share with you like medical 101, but anytime there's pain of any kind in your body, anywhere, it is usually being caused by inflammation. Okay, that's what's causing your pain. So if you've got a headache, well, headaches maybe fall into a little bit of a different category sometimes, because there's, your brain is in your head, and there can be some kind of nerve and like wiring stuff going on there that's, triggering a headache. And this actually goes for pain in all sorts of areas, right? There could be like a nerve thing, but oftentimes, again, it's related back to inflammation, maybe in your nerves somewhere, right? Or around your nerves. So if you've got anything going on that is a result of inflammation, frankincense might be something that you want to think about. Okay, so I would say, for instance, arthritis. If you've got joint pain or you've got arthritis, I would be taking frankincense, and either you dilute it and you make like a blend with a couple of other kind of essential oils that are helpful for pain, like copaiba, for instance, is a great one for pain. Like you could do a blend and rub that on the areas where you're having pain, or applying it directly, right, in the area where you're having the pain, because your skin is like absorbs everything. So you want to get it as close as possible to the area where you're having pain. That's going to help you. That was the other thing, like with my dad, like they'd always ask him, do you have headaches? And my dad would be like, no, not really. You know, it was a while before he started having headaches again after his radiation, which is unusual, but it's because he didn't have inflammation. And I truly believe that the frankincense was doing its job. So, so there you go. Okay. So this is all the reasons I love frankincense. And just to share quickly with you how I use it personally in our home. I believe so much in its immune boosting properties and its healing properties and its anti-cancer properties. I'm going to steal the words of Michelle White from Hip Natural Love, who was actually a guest on my podcast a few weeks ago. But she said she makes sure that her kids get touched with frankincense at some point every single day. Okay. And I really loved the way that she articulated that. To touch your kids with an oil like this is really just like, what a blessing to be able to provide something so beneficial to your children. So I've taken on that same approach. You know, my kids somehow get frankincense every day, whether I'm diffusing it in our home with like a blend. It's Christmas time, so I've got holiday joy going with the, you know, like a little bit of frankincense. I've also got it in an immunity roller that we put on the bottom of the kids' feet at night, or, you know, on the back of their neck during the day. I make sure that we are touched by frankincense every day. So that's one way that I love to use it. I also make my own skin serum. Okay. So I'm 42 years old. I've always said this, like, I have nothing against Botox and plastic surgery, and I may go down that route one day myself. But for now, I do everything in my power to prevent. And so I make this, I make a serum for myself. And again, what I love about essential oils, you can customize stuff to your own skin. So I love using frankincense on my skin because of all its great properties for skin. So I just make a serum like this that has like a bunch of oils in it that are great for skin. So frankincense is one of the things that I put in this serum. And if you're interested to know, the other stuff that I put in my serum is sandalwood, helichrysum, vetiver, and I also use copaiba. So those are that's kind of what I'm into right now. And when this finishes, I'll play around a little bit more with other stuff. So that's another way that I use frankincense. I'm using that on my skin every night. Another way that I like to use frank is, we're on Frank basis now, like first name basis. I call it Frank. The other way I like to use frankincense is just like I said before, in the owie spray, because it is regenerating to skin. So, you know, when your kids have a little scrape, or me, I'm like a total klutz. Like, I try to curl my hair, and every time I try to curl my hair, I burn myself. Like, I ask anybody in my family, and they'll tell you, like, Christmas time at my house is a disaster because I burn myself at least once. So, you know, helping those wounds heal, you know, making like a little owie spray with some lavender and some helichrysum and a little bit of frankincense with some aloe vera gel can be really soothing and regenerating to the skin. So, and now the hormone thing is kind of recent for me. Like, I just learned about this, and I'm super into hormones lately because 42, right? You guys will understand. If you're getting into your 40s, you'll understand. The balancing of the hormones is so important, you guys, to stay healthy. They affect everything in our bodies. So now that I'm starting to learn more about its effect on hormones and estrogen, you know, I'm gonna use it that much more. I feel like I'm already getting it through my diffusing, and I'm getting it through the serum. But, you know, I would be probably using this more intentionally on myself, and kind of maybe rubbing it on the base of my neck or the base of my spine, and make sure that I'm getting it that way. And I think those are all the ways in which I am using frankincense right now. So diffusing, using it topically in my skincare, you know, using it with my kids, and yeah, that's it. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. Love frankincense. And if you have any questions, as usual, pop them into the comments. And that's it. Come follow me on Instagram if you don't already. I do stories there, and I use lots of other ways that I use my essential oils and all sorts of cool, fun stuff. So I'm Sunit Sachdev over on Instagram as well. And again, guys, if you have any questions, I'm always just a private message away. And have a super fabulous day. And for those of you who are in the States, happy Thanksgiving. Talk to you guys next time.